Hey everybody, welcome back. Feeling a little bit sick today, so instead of doing any kind of physical labor, I just figured I would try to show off the cemetery that I built for my wife. She's kind of a spooky witchy bitch, love her to death, and so because she's my muse and I love the hell out of her, I went ahead and built the cemetery. This is one of the earlier things that I built, so some of my design choices have changed, but you can also see where some things are starting to, establish themselves. I've tried to do this once already, so technically this is a second take. The first take was an hour long, just because there's a lot to talk about. So I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. I know other people. Pause before I get into the video. Feel free to move around this video at any point. You do not have to listen to me talk and ramble. I have autism and ADHD or what the fuck ever, whatever the fuck's going on with me. I talk a lot. When I get onto one tangent, I will focus on it. It's not for everybody, but when I'm sitting here trying to explain the process behind why I did what I did, some people are into that, but then I'll trail off into stuff that they're not into, and I get that. So please don't feel like you got to sit here and watch this whole thing and suffer through it like it's that scene from A Clockwork Orange. Just come here for what you need. If you want the reasoning behind it, I'm probably talking about it. If you don't necessarily need that, you're just here for inspiration, feel free to skip around the video because I will just show stuff off um, to everybody just so y'all can see it. And you can stop at any point, get a freeze frame, a still, and then look at whatever it is that you're trying to get inspiration from. Um, my content is not for everybody. I don't do the whole TikTok influencer, like, drop some bait at the beginning and then do the whole video. I don't do all that. I barely even edit this motherfucker. The only time I really edit is like now. I have to do a second take because the first one was an hour. And then otherwise, like if my recording stops and I don't want to redo the whole thing, I'll just interject my voice and continue on. But other than that, I just do this shit raw, live, Bill O'Reilly style. So it's take it or leave it. Like, no offense or nothing, but like, if it's not for you, it's not for you. However, that being said, if you do have constructive criticism, like, oh, well, like, I don't mind your ramblings and your jokes and stuff, but, try to edit it down, or like, oh, your videos are a bit too long, or maybe don't explain so much and like save that for a different video or something. Like, whatever kind of feedback you can give me to give me some direction, that would be nice. Otherwise, hearing like I talk too much or this is bad probably won't help me. Now, I haven't had any negative comments. Everybody's been exceptionally supportive and everything. But somebody on Reddit did ask, like, does that video need to be 25 minutes? My answer is yes, because I'm treating it like it's a video essay and I'm kind of having a conversation with you. Do you need to watch all 25 minutes? No, you don't. And I won't be offended if you don't. And I don't give a fuck about the click through rate on my YouTube analytics. All right? This is here for y'all to use. Like, it's a tool, it's an experience. Think of it like a college course in vintage story. But, like, I'm not a college professor, I'm just some dude yapping. So, if you are fluent in Japanese like me and you want to listen, thank you. I love you. You're very welcome. If you just want to skip around, go right ahead. I appreciate you as well. Take what you need and leave what you don't. Simple as that. I will do a quick flyby here because it is a mausoleum and a cemetery. And it's kind of got this stone hill wall border backdrop that I'm kind of treating like the back of, like if this was a diorama, this is the fourth. No, this would be the third wall. The fourth wall is the one you're looking through. This up here is the fourth wall. This back one is our third wall, and I have it greened up with foliage and stuff to make it look busy. And I hate that you have to use creative to put the bushes, but I do that often because in my mind, you should be able to use shears on the leaves from trees, like in Minecraft, and then place those leaves down as bushes, or at least the branchy ones. So I did cheat and put a lot of bushes through here, and then added vines and trees and stuff to make this look a lot more green. So you come out here, there is a cypress tree right here. I like those. It's a nice framing device, especially if they get tall enough. There is one right here that is not grown yet because the weather got cold on it. But you can see the stained glass window. You definitely want to outline each color in some kind of dark material, just so that way the different frames pop and you can actually see the picture. If you just have glass running into glass, especially with similar colors, you kind of lose what you're going for. And the bigger you can make the stained glass window, the better it looks. It just looks a whole lot better if you can make it bigger. Not to be a size queen or anything, but in this case, bigger is better for stained glass windows. A little bit of ebony ornate woodwork on the back with some blue banners and a blue lined cloth on a table. Blue and yellow go really well, so there's a tan jug on it, and ebony kind of has an orangish color to it. I felt like that looked nice, which bleeds into the orange glow of the candles, and then you have this blue and orange planter, so I feel like that just goes really well, especially with the reddish uh, clinker bricks mixing with the basalt. I believe that's basalt, the polished basalt, and the gray bricks, which there's some black bricks mixed in there too to kind of do a gradient. But I did outline the window in a lighter color to make it pop, and it looks really good at night. But this is like the back face of it. This is where you come into our estate from this road right here, and then here's the stable, and then this right here is the cemetery. So this is one way to get in. There is another door, or gateway rather, on the other side over there by the Christmas tree. So you can come in from any side, giggity, as long as you have permission. I might put metal on the top of the wall instead of the cobblestone fence, but right now that's what's there because that's what I had. Black bronze chiseled grate door, or you want to call it, like a jail cell door type thing. A little monument, mausoleum, uh, burial site thing here, kind of fancy with some offerings. That is a pounder cup. The pounder cap for the pulverizer. The pounder caps make decent cups, like for kitchen builds and things like that. Just something to keep in mind. A lot of these headstones are things that I chiseled. Some of them, like this wooden one right here, are from Clutter. They're just creative mode. I just use creative mode to put them in there. Kind of spice things up. I have candles and jugs and bowls in front of some of these just to make it look like people are visiting. And my thought process is that people, like this guy probably has more money than this guy. Or maybe this guy was buried here first, and now this is the way we do headstones. Like, just different ways to interpret it. This building is really just jutted into this overgrown wall, but it just serves as a storage. Mostly this is, like, she wanted a cemetery because she likes the way they look. Like I said, she's a spooky bitch. But also wanted to be functional. So the top is where we store bones. The bottom is where we store bony soil. And there's more storage inside the mausoleum, but this is really like the main function of this build. Like I said, I like things to be stylized and stylistic and nice to look at, pretty. But I also want them to have at least some kind of function. And then I have plaques on the side of random things just to make it look like there could be a name labeled there. Sorry, I had to take a drink. I'm sick. I'm like drying out and dying here. It's fucking killing me. This is a low headstone with like stone in the ground. And then this is a bridge that I chiseled out of ebony, black bronze, and cobblestone. What really helps keep this bridge looking smooth, even though it's at an angle, is that I chiseled it down to like the smallest really it would let me chisel. And then also there is a beam running along the top. And since the beam doesn't have any kind of voxelation to it, it's like a smooth flat run. It makes the bridge look straighter. Thought about making a wooden bridge. It was just too much using all the same wood, and I didn't like the way any of the other woods that I had at the time were looking with the ebony we had acquired, so we just stuck with this. This right here is just to keep you from being able to go back there and not really questioning what's back there. It's just a gate. I did use iron and black bronze. However, like I've said before, with any kind of metal thing you're chiseling, you don't need to use metal. I just do because I'm bougie. So you could use like granite, polished granite for the iron, and then black bronze could be polished shale or slate or something, and that would have the same effect. And you really don't need to go all out with it on that. Save your metal for useful stuff like your tools, especially if you're only doing like survival stuff or it's just you by yourself. I have my wife helping me, and we have a factory for pumping out plates, so I'm really not hurting for any of the materials. But before we cross the bridge, I am going to show off the mausoleum, which kind of maybe has a pseudo-Greek, Greco-Roman look to it. Again, some more leaves coming up the side of it. I did hide a little lantern back there. Or not back. Well, I guess it is kind of hidden, but there's lanterns on the top. Not lanterns. Lamps. Because I felt like having a lantern somewhere would just be too... I don't know. It just looked like it'd be sticking out like a sore thumb. I don't want none of my thumbs here looking sore. So I got these tiny little lamps on top just to keep this lit up. and there's a, I guess this would be a vaulted skylight, but it kind of looks like a greenhouse roof. I just like the way that looks. I feel like I've seen those on some buildings that kind of look like this, but again, this is like a very darker tone. Usually, like in the Greco-Roman builds, they're a lighter white, like alabaster or plaster color. But from what I hear, like the Roman and Greek buildings actually weren't white. They were very colorful and ornate. It's just that the paint and stuff wore off them, so we're just left with the white stone or plaster that's remaining. But I don't really know to what degree, like the whole column would have been painted in something. Maybe it was. Maybe it was just styled up the whole thing head to toe. I'm really not certain. But I did want pillars, and that just seemed, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many ways you can do a pillar. This just seemed to be the way for me to do the pillar. And then the glass roof on top, flat everywhere else, with an A-frame back here, because this is like an actual building-looking building. Like, it looks like it has a normal roof is what I'm getting at. Like, it looks like a house structure and not whatever this mausoleum portion in the front is. But you come in here, you can look up and see that. It's got some supports. It's all chiseled out. Very ornate. Ebony roof. Again, the ebony wood just looks fancy. Have an alcove here chiseled out. So you can put some candles and also use it to put, I believe that's a ruined pot because of the hardened glue. And then the artistic bottle, which I wish the artistic bottles had different color liquids in them, besides just the red being available. Not skylight. Stained glass window. Doesn't look as good in the daylight, but when it's nighttime and the sky's black back there, that motherfucker pops. Looks really good. Altars from the ruins, and then I chiseled this and put firelight on top of it to kind of blend that into that color scheme. And then you can also find these granite pedestal pieces in the ruins as well. And then I just added a beam for like a windowsill right there. The owl chest looks nice. I wish there was other chest pieces that looked more ornate. I did have a music box up here, but I decided the owl chest was just looked better in my opinion. Lectern here on top of, I don't know if this would be an altar or maybe it's its own, not a coffin, not a casket either. I think the word I'm looking for is sarcophagus, but it's just something here, and then people can read rites or religious text or what have you. The orange banners being up here works with the blue, cool tones of the bricks, and then I have the polished. Didn't mean to do that. I did it again. Wow. Let's just use the stairs. Polished basalt to kind of frame that out and bleed that into the rest of the mausoleum up here, and then I have the clinker bricks chiseled up to be a wall to make it look like the brick wall is like retaining whatever the structure for the rest of the floor is. And then I got these heavily customized stairs. These are not actual stairs. This is a block that I chiseled down into a stair shape. I think it's still at a 45-degree angle, but it's shifted back half a block. So I just had to chisel the fuck out of it. And that's mostly because I did not get the right angle of descent to go down into here. And I had to make this work. I had to change this out and make this work. And so this is what worked. There was going to be some lanterns here, but I never got around to doing it. So now it's just empty squares. More pillars. Chiseled out platforms so I could put powder caps, the artistic bottle, a bowl of water, and some candles. Jugs and bowls, or crock pot, cooking pot. Chiseled out little window, but you can't put anything in it. I thought about using creative mode to get the creative lights and like custom chiseling my own torch to put in there, but I just didn't do it. Really, looking back on this, I should have made this more archy and then flattened that out and put some kind of mural. But I was trying to get all fancy with like chiseling the blocks and stuff, and I don't like the way it looks. I wish I had redone this, but that's the way it is right now, so that's what you're seeing. The ceiling is also kind of flat, but I was okay with it. It doesn't bother me too badly. Storage vessels down here for storage, and also because they look pretty fancy, and maybe they're like urns of people's remains or something like that. A lectern, maybe this gives you directions. And then iron plaques with iron trap doors, because the metal trap doors only come in iron right now. There's not like a bronze or a tin. So I just had the plaques the same material, so they matched up thematically. But this is kind of like where they pull the guns out of Sarah Connor's remains in the mausoleum in Terminator 3. I don't know if Any of you youngins will get that reference, but this is where you'd find like there'd be a casket or urn or something in like interred behind the wall. And I gave access points here because this is where you can store bones or bony soil. Again, more functionality added to this because my wife loves to sift through the bony soil she finds to get all the little, trinkets and treasures and what have you. So maybe this is where people's names are written, and then this is where the casket could be pulled out. Also kind of looks like a morgue where they keep the bodies on ice, or maybe it's where they, incinerate the bodies for cremation, the crematorium. But in my head, this is just where they're interred. And then there's some cheaper style internment or wall burial, whatever term is actually used here. Wall sarcophagi. Sarcophagi, I'm married. They're made out of iron and then also phyllite and granite just to give an alternating pattern and make it look like, something's going on behind that wall. Little vaulted ceiling. And this is replicated on both sides. I'm trying to speed run this while also not really missing any of the details. But you come back here and you switch to a more orange light. There's no lanterns or anything at this point. No daylight is reaching here either. And I feel like the orange glow on the clinkers helps... that sounds like a slur. Wow. The orange light on the clinker bricks helps translate this gradient I got going on where it's transitioning into the tan brick because that's brown. And so the orange glow on the clinker, especially right here, it sounds so harsh saying that, on the clinker bricks makes it look kind of brown and orange, which I think just helps bleed into this material we're getting here. And my thought process is that like the catacomb that you're going to see back here is like what was here first. And as you go, further up here and higher up, the rest of this is newer construction or maybe has been renovated or something in some way. And so back here is just dirtier and older, more ancient, grimier. These are caskets from creative mode, but you could also use, I think, like the steel making coffin to get a look like this, and then have rugs and candles dotted in between, more iron plaques for, nameplates, open book here on a lectern so you can read about whoever's interred here or something. And then I chiseled some custom sarcophagi. There's that word again. Is it sarcophagi? It's got to be sarcophagi. Sarcophaguses does not sound, neither of them sound right, but that one sounds more wrong, or at least more incorrect. Sarcophagi just sounds wrong on all levels, but I digress. But you come through here and you get to the old, giggity, you come through here and you get to the older part of the build where I've used the skull cobble to make it look like it's like I think they're French, they might be Spanish, but there's like some kind of catacombs or something that are built into like an ancient sewer system. And so like if you go underneath this very modern city, there's just skeletons and bones all over the place, or at least there used to be. And like anarchists used to break in and have like movie nights down in there or something. I feel like it's in Paris, but it might be somewhere in Spain. Maybe there's multiple. I'm really not sure. But that was my inspiration for this, to make it look like it's just a vaulted cellar. Instead of storing wine, they store dead bodies. And you can see some of the skeletons sitting on a ledge. More vessels of lower quality, ornateness, to make it look like they're old, or this is just where poor people were buried, or they weren't as fancy with their burials back then. Whatever your inference is. It's all about the implication. Pile of bones. And then it gets a little bit older, goes back to this mud brick, which is an even older build, which replicates a different style of catacomb that I've seen. I feel like I've seen this in like Dark and Darker, or maybe Skyrim or something. But I chiseled some of the skull cobble to make it look like it's just individual skulls. And then here's actual skull assets placed next to it to kind of help facilitate that mental transition there for you, so that way you believe that that's a bunch of skulls back there, because really it looks like a PS2, PS1 video game texture over a flat surface, but having the 3D bits come out, I think, helps sell it more. And then just slightly chiseled roof to make it vaulted and supported. I should have put a torch holder here to have the torch in, but I guess I forgot to do that. But there's candles behind the post here so you don't see them outright, but also so there's some lighting in here, because otherwise you're going to get drifters spawning out the wazoo. But that's the whole mausoleum. I'll do one more walkthrough here as we're leaving, so you can stop it at any point, get some inspiration. But then we're going to show off the rest of the cemetery, and it's kind of bittersweet. There's no way for me to show off the cemetery without talking about it, but I want to preface that I'm not looking for any kind of pity party or anything. Again, here's the bridge with the flat beam going over the river, which is rivulet, creek, whatever you want to call it, flows down here under the bridge and into our lake, and then there's the hot springs that also flow down here. But like I was saying, I don't want a pity party or anything, but this spot over here that I'm about to talk about is really personal. But I built this cemetery for my wife, and I wasn't sure what to put in it exactly, so I just did a bunch of different types of gravestones. So here's like, maybe this is a family that was here, and they're all buried together. I feel like back in the day, only the royals had like a cemetery where like they were buried, and usually any poor peasant schmuck just got buried at home or out in the wild somewhere. There really wasn't like a public cemetery. I feel like burial didn't become commercialized like it is until the onset of capitalism, late 1800s, early 1900s. And that's when the rich, like people wanted to seem rich. So instead of having to have a coat of arms and a family tree and lineage and estate and all that to bury your dead in remembrance, they marketed it to the emerging middle classes so that way they can seem like royalty. And that's my theory. I haven't actually looked at the history of it, but I feel like that's when burial and stuff came about. So, without really knowing how they did things back then, I wasn't sure how to approach the graves in here. So there's all kinds of different ones. Like I said, maybe this is a family, or maybe this is for poor people who could only afford a slot like this, and they're not afforded any kind of space around themselves like the other gravestones that maybe those people had more money, or maybe we're getting overpopulated and those are older graves, and this is the newer way of doing the graves so we can fit more people in here who have passed. I'm not exactly sure. It's whatever the implication you get from it is. I try to convey something to the audience, but again, whatever y'all get from it is going to be different. All I can really do is show you what color the door and the curtains are, and then it's up to you really to make that inference as to what that means, if anything. And different people watching can get different inferences. Maybe that guy is poorer, or maybe it's just the older way of doing it. I'm sure that says something about your worldview, depending on what route you take with it. But more copy and pasted gravestones from over there. I did change some of them a little bit to add some variety. There's nothing I hate more than seeing a constantly replicated texture and it being visibly obvious. So I try to spice things up. Like this one's a new one that's different. Little flat one that you can't really see. And there's a set of benches here to sit and watch. And you can, or not watch, but I guess, sit and mourn or communicate with your loved ones. Some more of the gravestones up here. These are like the metal plaques that you'd see in the ground. Like, I guess I'm a poor person. Most of the type of gravestone or headstone that I've seen is just a metal plaque in the ground with the person's name. And I don't know if they're buried vertically or if they're even under the ground or if it's just the ashes are underneath there. I'm really not sure about the deal, but I've seen these a lot. And so I went ahead and I just added that in. Just, again, for some variety from the regular gravestones or headstones you see. Lamppost, which is the basalt or shale, whatever the fuck I'm using. Fence on top of my brick piece. And then ebony fence and a brass lantern. More gravestones up here, just because I didn't want to line the whole thing in bushes. So there's a couple grave spots right here. I need to trim back the leaves on this tree. But I do like that it goes over the path. So I don't want to fuck that up. But you just come underneath here, another bench. Here is the exit or other entrance. Like I said, it's right next to the Christmas tree. Doesn't really go anywhere or connect to anything yet, except you can go across that bridge to get to the house, which goes over the hot springs. Come over here. This is a grave site that's being built, or I guess dug up. They're getting ready to bury somebody there. More headstones in the ground. More gravestones sticking up. I feel like I need to make that tree go all the way down or put a bush right there. I don't like having that dirt exposed in that fashion. But that's for another time. And then you loop all the way around, more gravestones. This wall has more foliage on it. Just because I didn't want to do too many gravestones. And also I feel like this transitions nicely into what I was calling, the third wall, the backdrop, the back wall of the play, the diorama that we have going on here with the chiseled stone and the water coming from it. There is a pond on the other side of this small ridge that this water is implied to be running from. I just haven't gussied up anything on the other side. And I don't know if I've said it in this take or not, but like 122 is going to be coming out at some point, and it's offering a lot of changes to like the windmills and stuff. So there's going to be things in the base that I will have to change, especially since they're changing forges and they're adding quenching and tempering. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of remodeling. So all the stuff you've seen might get changed by the time I'm done with this build in this part of the world, because I'm going to build right here till it's done and then go somewhere else and kind of like start over on the same map and build there up, and do the same thing with a different style and everything. So I thought that was a cool way to keep the forever world going. But once I'm done with this spot, my starting location, I will probably do one final big tour to, cover up all these individual tours of the buildings that I've done, that will go through and show the final product after all the changes have done, because there's been a lot of remodeling, and there'll have to be even more remodeling with the factory and the windmills and stuff and the forge area, once 122 is stable and actually comes out. But to top this off, and I think we're like at 30 fucking minutes still right now, but this is the bittersweet part, man. I fucking hate talking about it. Again, this is not... I don't want, feel bad points. I don't want a pity party. I'm not trying to do this for clout. I don't want to go viral with this. I'm just trying to show off the cemetery that I built for my wife because she's a spooky witch bitch and she wanted a cemetery. However, right after I built this cemetery, like it's right before Christmas, I feel like, my dad died. And it was not his time. It's very rough. It's been rough. It's been so rough. But I cannot stress how awesome it was as somebody who has never really had their, like, there's nothing special about me. I'm a cis, hetero, boring, vanilla cracker white guy. Like, I'm into guns and stuff and, like, video games, but, like, because of my demographic, whatever community is out there for me is usually, like, harmful to other marginalized communities, and I don't want to be a part of none of that. So I kind of just have kept to myself because I don't want to, like, step into other people's spaces, and I feel like the spaces that are intended for my demographic are not spaces I want to be in. And me and my dad kind of saw it differently on things like that, but the man was a good man, a great man. He raised 3 boys. He's a fantastic individual, hard fucking worker. He served his country. I have nothing but good things to say about him, even if he and I did not always see eye to eye. But when he passed, it really hit me, and it's still beating the shit out of me. And not to derail this video or drown you guys, but you guys can skip ahead like the next 2 or 3 minutes if you want. But when he passed, it was super cool to have found the community in Vintage Story, because like I used to play Call of Duty and Tarkov and stuff like that, and I still play like Timberborn and Furthest Frontier and Minecraft, but like only Vintage Story and partaking on Reddit and sharing these videos and doing this stuff that I find a community that I felt like I was safe to be a part of, and I wasn't stepping on anybody's toes or being a threat to any, or even being perceived as a threat to anybody. And so it was really cool that when I expressed my grief initially when it first happened, because I had no idea where to go or what to do about it, that people were so supportive. And it really made me double down on like getting lost in the sauce when it comes to doing stuff in this game. And I'm sure my dad would tell me that I'm wasting my free time when I use my free time to play this game. That was an argument we always had. He thought games were stupid, even though he played games himself. I don't know. Parents are hypocritical sometimes. They monkey see, not monkey do. Like, do what I say, not what I do. I want what's best for you. Don't do what I do. Listen to me. Parents are fucking weird. If you ever are a parent, you'll get it. But he would want me to do other stuff. But unfortunately for this great man, there's no unclaimed continents for me to conquer. There's no new planets for, like, I can't go fly a Millennium Falcon and go land on a planet and claim it for him. And I'm not going to go conquer or invade somebody just so I can say, like I fought for my dad. Like, that's, I'm not going to get embroiled in that. But, like, I hate so much that there's nothing I can do tangibly, like, in my hands to, like, honor this man and show him that he's honored. And so one day I was sitting, like, I was like, I need something to do. I need to do something with my hands to, like, get the grief out, to put it into something, which sounds like some stupid liberal arts concept. Like, I never bought it before, but, like, I was holding on to something, and I really needed somewhere to put it. And it was one of the first times I ever really felt like what I was holding on to couldn't be used for fuel. Like, I usually, like, when I'm angry or sad, I usually use that for motivation, but this defeated me. It was more burden than fuel, and I needed somewhere to put it. And so, although I built this cemetery for my wife, there's a spot for my dad. And like just thinking about this really makes me want to tear up. So if you hear the weakness in my voice, I'm sorry. And like you can skip ahead and everything, but like this is the end of the video. I've shown off everything to show off about the cemetery, and I'll do another flyby so you can look at it. But my dad was a real man. They don't make him like they used to. And like for as crude and as inconsiderate and sometimes as childish as he was, like for all his faults and flaws, he was such a good motherfucker. He would give you the shirt off his back. He was a carpenter. He built houses. That's why I got into it. He was just such a good man. He wanted people to be the best version of themselves. And like I will never be able to live up to how manly and how oorah and just how this guy was. Like I feel like in my mind, like when I was a kid and I played God of War when I shouldn't have, Kratos, like my dad was Kratos to me. Like I don't know if that makes sense. But like he was something. He could build a whole house by himself in like 5 days. Like stick frame the whole thing, have the electricity in, and have the sheetrock put on the inside. Like you'd have to do windows and shit, but like he could do the whole thing by his fucking self. He was a woodsman. He could fix most of the important shit on a car just out in the fucking driveway. Didn't need a garage to do it. He had so many talents and so many skills, and he was. When he came across you, if he saw hope in you, and God, I hope that he saw something in me, and like I don't remember getting like a good job from him or anything, but it was always criticism. He always said things like maintenance is not an event, and you should have done it this way, and do better, and all this other stuff. And I choose to believe that really comes from a place of love, where he wanted me to be the best that I could be. He was an army guy, so like be the best that you can be. Like he was drilling that into me. He did not want, if the world ended, he did not want me to suffer during the end of it. He wanted me to be able to survive it. And I thank him for that, as tough as he was. But he was the kind of guy that he would build you up. He would make a man out of you. He would do it. And if you were already built and made by the time he met you, he was there to help you, finish it out. Maybe do some patches, do some repairs. He was a craftsman, and he didn't just craft houses. He didn't just build furniture. He didn't just fix cars. He built and fixed and repaired and maintained people. And there's a lot of lessons that I take from him that I don't think he was trying to teach me, but he taught them to me anyway. And I wanted to honor my dad, and so that's why I built this sword. He was like, he hated video games, but he was real big into like Conan the Barbarian and Lord of the Rings and the Chronicles of Narnia and the Sword and the Stone movie and stuff like that. Real big into sword and sorcery. And he's also real big into Star Wars, which is also sword and sorcery, just with lightsabers. But I feel like I needed to do something to honor him, and so he probably would laugh and think this is stupid and that, there's better ways to spend my time, and he's right on all of those. But in my grief, I spent my time making a sword in the stone, and I have a sword and a shield here that would be his to wield, would he need to. And he needed a spot, man, and I hate that I had to use a cemetery for a real death, especially the death of my father. But I don't know. It is stupid, but also, like, I had to. And, like, I don't want sympathy. I don't want pity party. I don't want brownie points or anything. I don't want y'all to feel bad. I want you to understand the context of why this is here, because I had to turn around and show it off. I could have skipped this part, but somebody could have been like, well, what's the giant sword you didn't mention? And then I'd have to explain it anyway. So I'm sorry for, like, the emotional weight and how heavy it is and, like, the cracking of my voice and everything, but thank you guys who have stayed here. This was built in loving memory of my father, Alet Russell Felker II. One hell of a man. He's a motherfucker. A motherfucker. Oh, he'd fight his way into hell and then fight his way back out. I tell you what. But thank you guys for sticking around. I'm like structurally speaking, I'm proud of building the sword. I kind of want to build more giant weapons and stuff like that. Like it makes me want to do statues. But this one's for my dad. Like I said, he liked Conan, the Riddle of Steel, the 1980s movie, the one with Schwarzenegger really spoke to him. Like he loves swords. He wished guns weren't popular. He wanted swords to be a thing. A sword is just an extension of you. Like it's your arm but longer and sharper, and like it would never do anything you didn't want it to do. A sword can't misfire. A sword can't shoot someone on the other side of whatever you're shooting at. Like a sword only does what the user uses it for. Like it was a tool. It's a tool. The most inherent type of tool there is, like a blade. And I don't know. There was something romantic about it that he just wasn't able to articulate because he was just such a gruff. I don't want to say uneducated, but like he got kicked out of school for fighting and stuff. He was not a very well-read man. But the books he read were tales of heroism and manliness and greater sacrifice. He's a good man. And thank you guys who have stayed to listen to me cry about him and try to honor him a little bit more. And for everybody else who just wanted to build, I'm sorry if you've come into something emotional. Again, this is vintage story. It's supposed to be happy. It's supposed to be good. Context clues, man. Just feel free to check out the build and bounce around the video as you need. I hope this serves as some kind of inspiration. Life's hard, man. Don't do anything to make it harder than it needs to be. Find your community of people and just do what makes y'all happy. Be people together. Go find complete strangers and make them not strangers. The human experience should be one of sharing. I think it'd be weird to expect people to share grief with you if you're not going to go out of your way to share joy at every other available opportunity. But I think that's a long enough Midwestern goodbye. Thank you again for watching this video. Have a great day.